Hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead, back on porch time today. I'm back out on my deck, guys, because the dogs across the road are just going stark raving crazy today. And plus, it's just a beautiful day. It's a nice day. I got a shade from a tree here kind of filtering down on me, and I know it's kind of making my face go in and out, but you know what, like last week's porch time was, it is what it is. And plus, I like the scenery behind me. It just beats a blank wall, you know. But today's porch time is going to be about an entitled world. It seems like today, everywhere I look, there's this feeling of entitlement. I don't know how this mentality came to be. Probably with the government taking care of everything and leading everybody, kind of herding everybody more toward being cared for by the government, so to speak, made people feel like they were entitled. You know, lots of people say, well, I can't wait till I draw my Social Security and I'm able to retire. And, you know, if you go back, and I'm not a history buff by no means. I did like history in school, but when you go back and look at history, Social Security was never intended to be lived on. It was more or less, my reading of the way it was written, was more or less like an insurance program. It kind of helped supplement what you did in life, the decisions you made, and it was up to you to have a savings system set up to where you had something to live off of, and then Social Security just simply supplemented that. But today we live in a world of entitlement. People feel like they're entitled to this or they're entitled to that. And it seems like every generation coming forward seems to feel like they're more entitled than the generation before them were. Now, the generation before me, my parents, they didn't really feel like they was entitled to much. But my grandparents basically felt like there was no entitlement for anything. I mean, they literally just lived from hand to mouth, to be honest with you. They're through the Great Depression era, and then when they came out of that, my dad was born during the Great Depression, and coming out of that into adulthood, my parents just, they did with whatever they had. They didn't try to go and get anything from the government. Back then, you got commodities. My grandparents talked about getting stamps to be able to only get certain commodities. You were only allowed, according to my grandparents, you were only allowed so much sugar, so much meat, you know, so much flour. You were only allowed certain stamps for shoes because of the need for stuff for the wars and stuff and the shortages of things. And then when my parents come along, Social Security had kicked in and Medicare and stuff, and they got commodities back then. The government gave you, I remember going to take my granny to get cheese, and I forget all what it was, but there was powdered milk and cheese and a few other things like that, maybe some peanut butter or something like that, that had long shelf life storage to it, which was actually, my understanding was, during that time, it was actually rotated out of the nation's storage that it had. And no one really felt that entitled to anything. Now, they were happy to get it, and the commodities literally, and the stamps literally just helped you get by with what you had saved up or what you had canned or stored and throughout the summer years. And I got to stop, guys. If you hear something in the background bellowing, my neighbors have a calf that they've just separated away from a cow, and that's the hollering noise you hear in the background. Actually, the dogs have actually shut up for just a few minutes here. But literally, you know, my generation coming on, I hate to say it, but you know, there's a lot of my generations that feels like they're entitled to a lot of stuff. They feel like they're entitled to insurances and government programs and all this type of stuff. And then my daughter's generation, the millennial generation that's coming on behind me, seems to feel like they're entitled to everything. And I'm not saying my daughter is, but I'm saying her generation, because my kids are both very successful. They work really, really hard. And but that generation, there's a sense of entitlement there. They think that when they graduate, they should have a new car. Which my parents laughed at me when I asked for a vehicle, you know, really. But it didn't matter to me because I already had a vehicle when I was 15. I didn't have to wait till I graduated. But, you know, they felt like they had to have a vehicle at graduation, a new one, not just a vehicle, but a new one. Everybody has to have a cell phone. Everybody has to have a computer. You know, everybody has to have these entitlements. And guys, to be perfectly honest with you, there is literally nothing that is, what is the word? There should be nothing literally granted to you for anything, to be honest with you. Now, the only, let me backtrack a little bit there. The only thing in my personal life that I feel like should be an entitlement is if you were a veteran and you served in some war or the United States services in some way to defend this country, to keep the freedom in this country, then me as an American citizen believes that you are entitled to whatever it takes for the government to help take care of you, especially if you've been wounded, if you suffer from something that happened to you while serving this country, then yes, I believe that there's a certain amount of entitlement there that should be given to you. Because you sacrificed and you paid for your country. Now, very few people actually know much about the real history of this country. A lot of our early patriarchs, and I know the camera's getting really, really dark. The sun is changing, the shade's changing, but a lot of the early patriarchs died almost penniless, and they were wealthy men, some of them, because they literally funded some of the wars. They funded some of the things in this country. They used their own personal money because they believed that much in this country. The statement was made, ask not what this country can do for you, but what you can do for this country. That was a famous quote when I was coming up in school. We were taught that quote. And I still believe that that should be true today. This country owes none of us nothing. We should be trying to figure out what we can do to help this country rather than what this country can do for us. Now, it aggravates me to no end that American citizens sit back and are in need and cannot get any help at all. And yet a migrant can come in here, they can get supplemented housing, they can get supplemented medical, or even free medical as far as that goes, and they can have babies and they're taken care of. They get SNAP or EBT or whatever the other programs are. I don't know what all these programs are. They can get WIC, they can get all this stuff. And yet, American citizens that pays into the system every day cannot get any help when they need it. Lots of times, these other countries come in here and there's a sense of entitlement that's been put out there in the world that America, go to America, America will give you this or it will give you that. And there's a sense of entitlement there that these people who have actually paid absolutely nothing into the system think that they should get something out of it for nothing. And yes, I have a problem there. Because we have honest, hardworking people that sometimes need some help and cannot get it. I have had very dear friends who has lost husbands and loved ones and is down on their luck, had no income because the breadwinner passed away, and they could not get any help from the government at all. Even though their spouses had paid into the system, they had to wait till they could draw their Social Security or wait for some kind of insurance to kick in and all this stuff. I mean, I went through all this when my wife passed away, having to wait literally 6 to 8 months just to get an insurance check to be able to pay for the burial. And then I thought that was so ridiculous. I told the insurance company, I said, what if I had waited 6 to 8 months to pay you? You would not have let me keep the policy. So why on earth do you not just give me what's mine? I've paid it in. And they come back, well, but we have to have, we have to have a death certificate. We have to have this. We have to have that. And I even went to the bank to get, my wife had a Christmas Club account. The bank would not even give me the money out of the Christmas Club account until it got to be December the 20th. And my wife passed away in July. I had to wait till December the 20th to get that money out of that Christmas Club account in order to be able to help pay for her headstone to go on her grave. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. We have American citizens who actually have paid into the system, and can't get anything. Me personally, I paid in for years. I own my own business. I paid extra in. Doctors had told me at some point you'll be disabled because of some accidents I had when I was younger. As y'all seen in my previous videos, I talk about this. They would not give me my disability. Even though on my papers it says you are disabled. The judges would not grant it. And it just literally ticked me off to no end. To think that I paid into a system over 30-something years and could not get one dime of it back. Now, that ticked me off. And I see people walking around out here from other countries that come into our country, and some of them are American citizens that are perfectly able to work. I know some that's personally talked to me and told me, so you should have just pretended that you just had a mental issue, then you could have got it. In other words, if I had lied, I could have got what I wanted. But I'm not that type of person. But yet there's tons of them out there that feel like they're entitled. Have another baby. The government will take care of it. You'll get a check. I was on a job one time with a man I was working for. I was contracted out with him. We were fixing to move on to that job, and the person asked him, said, how many children you got? And he told him how many children he had. And he said, Lord have mercy, I bet you get a good check. And the guy, honestly, this is no lie, looked around at all of us subcontractors. He said, y'all load up all your stuff. He said, we're leaving this job. He said, I ain't working for these people. I mean, there's that mentality of entitlement out there, that we are owed something in life. And let me tell you something, we are owed absolutely nothing. Life is what you make it. If you make good decisions when you're in your youth, maybe when you're older, you will be able to live a halfway decent life. Fortunate for me, I've been able to pay for 3 different places. God's been good to me. I made the best decisions I could when I was young. I didn't go on lots of vacations like y'all have heard me talk about. I didn't spend my time out at restaurants eating. I put my money into my land and houses and stuff and paid for things. Yet I walk around, and when I'm in town, I look at the restaurants and I look at all the places, and they're so packed with people that literally you can't even, you go in, you got to stand in line just to be able to eat. And I'm like, why can't they eat at home? I realize some people's at work, but I always carried a lunch with me to work. There was a period of time when I was working like 1 block from a restaurant that I would eat at that restaurant every day because I was only a block from it. Me and my crew would go right there and eat, and we'd come right back to the job site. But 90% of my life, I carried my lunch. And guys, that's what I'm talking about. People, there's just a sense in this country, and I don't really know where it comes from. To be honest, there's been a disconnect from generation to generation. There's a disconnect in our food. There's a disconnect in just lots of areas in our lives, and we seem to feel like that we're entitled to things. And then, you know, if I'd have asked, I did not ask my parents for a new car, but if I had, excuse me, they would have laughed at me, you know. They'd have looked at me and said, yeah, right, we'd like to have a new car ourselves. But yet, I go by the schools today, and I look, and there's so many new vehicles sitting around the schools that kids are driving. And I'm like, wow, how are these kids affording all these vehicles? When I went to school, you was doing good just to have something to drive, much less a brand new one. You was lucky if your parents had a new one. And I don't know, I just don't get a lot of the life today. I'm amazed at how many people afford everything they have. They've got to be so deep in debt that they cannot see daylight. And it makes me wonder how they can have any kind of joy in life, because you've always got to be punching a time clock for somebody else to pay for something that's just going to go away anyway. You know, I don't know. Yeah, I got a video where I talk about this. It's called The Journey. I'll put it up in the description up here. I mean, in the cards. You can go back and watch that, and you'll kind of see my mentality on life. A lot of people have said it's one of my better videos. I don't know. I don't try to create videos that are, you know, that are to be moving to people. I just tell the facts. If it ends up being a good video, then it ends up being a good video. If not, then, like I said last week, it is what it is with me, because I really don't care. But I'm out here, guys, to just have just a one-to-one talk with you, and just, you know, don't let the entitlement thing get to you. I know a lot of people right now in their 20s and 30s that feel like they're entitled. I know a lot of people right now that's in their 20s and 30s that would give anything just to have an automobile, or a home, a place to call their own, a homestead, just anything. They don't feel like they're entitled to nothing. They would work their fingers to the bone if they thought they could have it. But our society is set up in a way now that the younger generation is, I don't know how they'll afford anything, to be honest with you. If your parents hasn't made a wise decision and is able to leave you something, a piece of property that you can build on, or something, then yeah, you're going to have problems and you're going to struggle. And that's the problem with the society we live in today. Parents are having such a hard time just keeping a roof over their own heads that they can't think about their children and what's going to be for them. They say, well, when I die, I'll leave this to my kids. Well, those kids have to live until then. And then a lot of times, and gosh, I know I'm going to probably make people mad, But you know what it is, what it is. But sometimes we can't own anything because of where we live. And if we would just suck it up and move away from where we live to somewhere else, that things are less expensive. Maybe it's another state, maybe it's another county, whatever, another neighborhood, where things are less expensive, that we could afford the things in life we want. But some of us are so hooked on where we're at until we won't make that decision. I've been one. I've lived in several different locations. Just because it was easier and cheaper to live somewhere else than where I was at that moment. And I didn't mind commuting just another 30 or 40 minutes or whatever it was. And even one time I lived a long way away and just took another job in that area because I could make better money, and it was in an area where the income was good and the housing was cheap, land was cheap, and I lived there for a while. So I mean, guys, just like the talk that Wanda and I did the other night, it's a video, there was a video right before this one, or 2 videos before this one I think, where we talked about the coming problems that this nation's going to face. You're going to see not the migrants that are coming from Guatemala up into the United States, but you're going to see people from different parts of the United States migrating to other parts of the United States, like they did back during the Dust Bowl, or like they did during the year without a summer in 1815. People left the states they lived in to move to states where they could grow food and not have to starve and do without and freeze to death. The Dust Bowl, people went further west and south because everything was said to be better there. The central part of the United States was drying up and just turning to pure drought and dust. Those people didn't, some of them didn't stay there. Some of them left because the grass was greener on the other side of the fence, so to speak. And they left and migrated. And I'm afraid in the next few years, you're going to see more and more of this beginning to happen. And I think what you're going to see is the prices in things are going to begin to change. Some places land is going to become extremely cheap. Some places land is going to be outrageous. So, guys, if you're one of those people who feel like you're entitled to stuff, take a long, hard look around you at the people who are actually working. They probably don't feel like they're entitled to anything at all because they're busting their butt on a daily basis. Don't be one of these kind of people who sits around and just waits, trying to get a free cell phone, trying to get a free EBT cards, trying to get free Medicare, free Medicaid. If you have the ability to work, then work. If you don't have some kind of physical infirmity that prevents you, or disability that prevents you from working, and I go to Walmart here in my town, there's people in wheelchairs working there. There's people that are crippled, that walk funny, working there. There's people with speech impediments working there. These guys and ladies are disabled, but they're still out there making a living for themselves. Now, I know that Walmart probably gets a kickback somehow or other for working these people. I'm not stupid, I realize that. But at the same time, these people are willing to go out and to try to do something. I stopped and talked to a guy in a wheelchair at my Walmart, and he told me, I told him I had a homestead. He goes, well, I got a homestead too. He told me, he says, I just bought me a new John Deere tractor, and man, he said, I love that thing. He said, I had a lift mounted on the side of it. He said, it lifts me up and I can get into the seat on it. All my controls are up on the steering wheel. He said, I'm paralyzed from the waist down, but I can bush hog my land. Or he says, I can drive it out there and put hay to my cows and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I said, really? He said, yes, sir. He said, I can go down through the field. I can get off of it, and I've got a motorized wheelchair I can carry with me in that thing. He said, I can fix fences in the fields. I've got me a 4x4 that I can get on and off of and drive out and check my animals. And he said, I'm just loving life, man. And I told him, I said, my friend, it's people like you that makes America great. And guys, be like these people. Don't sit back and whine in your self-pity because you don't have. There's opportunities out there for all of us. If you can't make it where you're at, then I suggest you look for somewhere where you can live and make it. And don't ride on mom and daddy's shirt tails the rest of your life. Because there may come a day mom and daddy ain't there. And you need to be making it on your own so that you don't have to worry about mom and daddy. And you know, I'm just sitting here, my mind's just, I'm going in like 10,000 different directions at one time. Because I know so many people out there that need so much help and want to move forward and are hung up because of the way our system works. They can't get money to do anything with, and it's just irritating them. It irritates me because you can have a migrant come in here and can get whatever money he needs to do whatever he wants with, and yet these are good American people that I know that talk to me on my YouTube channel here, and they have hopes and dreams, and they can't get any help to get anything. And that makes me sad. If it's up to people like you and me who are able to do some things still, even though I'm disabled, I still get out and try to do everything I can, and I try to do everything I can to help other people. I spend a lot of my days helping others, and I really believe that that's what life is all about. It's about helping others. It's not about feeling entitled to anything, but loving and helping other people. And I encourage each and every one of you to take on that attitude, to get out and help somebody, do something. Doesn't matter what it is. If that person has a need, help them. And I guarantee you, it'll make you a better person. So don't feel like you're entitled to everything, but that you can be a blessing to someone by helping others. So guys, thank you for watching Porch Time today, and may the Lord bless each and every one of you. And thank you from Deep South Homestead.